Welcome to Get Well with Mel. Today's episode hits close to home. We're talking about why do good men get divorced? Did you know that 70% of divorces are initiated by women? I know, surprising, right? That means there's a story behind every man wondering what happened. Tonight, we're going to unpack that. What's really going wrong in marriages, what men can do differently, and how to rebuild connection when all seems lost. And the best part, that's right, you watching, have the opportunity to join us live and answer and get your questions answered. Just head to melissadhall.com/live. So grab your notebook, grab a Red Bull, and let's get well together. So, as you all can see, I obviously have a very, very special guest with me today. And it is Miss Leslie Dories here, men's marriage coach and author. Welcome, welcome.
Thanks. So glad to be here.
Fantastic. So, let's just go and tell everyone just a little bit about you, okay? All right. So, Miss Dories is someone who has spent over 20 years helping couples and individuals understand what truly makes relationships work. Leslie Dories brings over 2 decades of experience as a coach and therapist and nearly 40 years of marriage with her husband. She is known for being direct and compassionate, gentle honesty wrapped in truth. Originally from Los Angeles, California, Leslie brings a beautiful blend of cultural experiences and perspective to her work. She is the author of Blueprint for a Lasting Marriage: How to Create Your Happily Ever After with More Intention, Less Work, and Being a Hero Husband. How to Make Your Wife and You Happy. Leslie, welcome to Get Well with Mel.
Thanks so much for having me. I'm so excited.
Yes, yes, yes. I'm so excited to have you here. So, Leslie, let's talk about how you became a marriage counselor. I know you have a very powerful story between you and your father. Is that right?
Well, yes. Ever since I was a little girl, I've always watched people. I've always been fascinated by why people do what they do. And unfortunately, in my life, my parents were not able to have a successful marriage for multiple reasons. And they got divorced when I was 15. Both of them were remarried. No, they got divorced when I was 16. And divorce came through at the beginning of December, and both of them were remarried by Christmas. Yeah. So it was, I mean, so a lot of upheaval in my life. And a lot of people think, oh, well, we'll just wait till the kids are older. They'll be in high school or they'll be adults and they'll be fine. Getting divorced when your child is a teenager is one of the actually worst times because it just completely upends everything. And then I lost my father when I was 24. So he dropped suddenly dead of a heart attack. So very unexpected, and again, very much upheaval in my life. And so, um, like I said, I've always been fascinated by by what makes people tick. I got my master's degree in organizational psychology it, in the early 90s, which we headed into a recession, so companies weren't hiring. By that time, I was married. My husband and I had, you know, moving on with our lives. And when we moved to North Carolina, I kept thinking, I, I don't want to do this. By this time, I'm a mother, and I was introduced to the marriage and family therapy program at East Carolina University. So I ended up doing extra work to become a licensed marriage and family therapist. And that's kind of how I got into the field. And then one of my very early clients was a 6-year-old little girl who was brought to me because she had anxiety. Well, of course she had anxiety. She was the proverbial rope in her divorced parents' tug of war. And there was no tools I could give a 6-year-old. She had no power in her life. So that's when I figured I need to start working with the parents, with the couples. I keep trying to get in earlier and earlier and earlier to try to get people on the right track. And that's kind of my story.
Wow, that is so powerful. For those of you all who are just tuning in, we are talking about why do good men get divorced here with relationship therapist Leslie Dories. And she just gave a powerful story, you all, on how she came to be. Being a teenager, seeing your parents getting divorced, and in the same month, both of them married. So were they separated or anything?
Yes, they were separated. I think my mother started dating my stepfather in January or February of the year that they ended up getting married. My dad um, had several affairs, so that was also a
Okay.
complication. Oh yeah,
Okay.
oh yeah, and he ended up marrying the last woman he had an affair with, my stepmother, and so there was all kinds of turmoil
Okay.
going. I mean, lots and lots of turmoil, and this is the problem is that you know, you cannot fix a relationship by going outside of it
Mm.
but trying to figure out what's going on and figuring out what to do because love the Beatles, love George and Ringo, but their thing of love is all you need is one of the myths out there. If you don't know what makes relationships work, you are going to keep struggling. And the way most of us learn is either by watching our parents, which may or may not be a good idea, or we kind of learn through our own broken relationships, not but we don't really know how to put the pieces together.
Okay. I mean, you bring up a good point. So when we're talking about, your clients, I know you work with men exclusively. Tell me, what state are most of them in when they come to you? Has their wife already asked for a divorce or has the fire just faded out?
Well, sometimes it's both. Um, Unfortunately, too often I get the phone call where she has already filed or she's talked to an attorney. And so they're calling me hair on fire, right? It's like, here's this horrible thing. And most of the time what they say to me is, I knew things weren't great. I didn't know it was that bad. And here's the problem, and this is you're going back to that statistic of most divorces are initiated by women. Men don't see this coming because one of the things that happens is that women will try their best to try to, you know, focus on what the problem is. Again, they don't necessarily have the skills to do that well. And one of the things that happens is they stop talking
Yes.
about the relationship. They go underground and they start planning when they're going to leave. And a lot of times it's we're going to wait until the kids are out of high school or whatever, and this is their plan. So the men think everything's okay because she's not complaining, and this is how they get blindsided.
Yeah, definitely. And so would you say men don't see it coming because the communication styles are different?
Oh well, definitely that. The communication styles are different. Their expectations are different. And again, neither party really has an understanding of what makes relationships
Right. So what would you say, these are the question, what would you say makes relationships work?
well. Okay, so one of the biggest problems is, especially when we get married, we fall in love, right? We meet somebody, we fall in love, and we go into what we call a psychotic fantasy.
Random.
um, because being in love is a neurological, biological process for us to meet, mate, and procreate. It's how we keep the species going. So, what's going on during that in love phase is not reality. But this is when we're making our decisions. So after we've been with somebody for a year, 2 years, 3 years, maybe a kid, maybe some other stuff, it's like, what happened to that wonderful relationship that we started out with? Well, thinking that that's the reality as opposed to what we're in now. And so it's moving past the in love. Because one of the things I absolutely detest hearing, I love my spouse. I love my spouse. I'm not in love with them anymore. And in my opinion, good. Now move on. Most people think that's the bad thing.
So that's actually the good thing.
It's actually the good thing
Okay.
because when you're in love, you're not in. It's not realistic. It's not reality.
So, so with that said, like, what is reality? Like, no, because it's kind of like this catch-22. Because if you say when everything is great, you all are dating isn't real, then how do you know like it's real now? Like, I can really make an informed decision to not be part of the 70%.
Part of that is learning the skills, and one of the number one skills is productive communication.
Okay.
Most people, when they communicate, they just open their mouth and words start coming out, and they don't necessarily think about what am I trying to accomplish? Is the words I'm going to use be helpful? There's some really bad pieces of advice out there that all couples fight. It's not whether you fight, but how you fight. My problem is that word fight,
Mm.
you can't put a positive spin on that. We're all going to disagree. And a lot of times people will try to have conversations when one or the other one is really emotional. Worst time to have a conversation. You could, at that point in time, you're having dueling monologues. You're not actually having a conversation because you can't listen. And listening is actually the most important part of communication. And by the way, listening to somebody, hearing somebody does not mean you agree with them. It just means you're trying to figure out where they're coming.
All right, all right. So you're giving us some good. Okay. So let me ask you this, okay? When are couples most likely to get divorced? You mentioned on our pre-call something called the FU40s. What is the FU40s?
Well, there are actually really three blips where people get divorced. The first is very early on when they realize they just made a big mistake and they get out. The second,
When you say early on, what do you mean?
like within maybe the first couple of years.
Okay, all right.
The second time is usually anywhere from year 7 to year 10, the 7 year itch, where they've gotten into kind of this, they're functioning, nothing's really wrong, but they maybe have a couple of kids and they're feeling like they're being strangled. They're slowly dying. Um, the, the other period, this is the one that people need to be aware of right now, is at your around between 20 and 25, when the kids have grown up, you're becoming an empty nester. You're suddenly looking at this person across the breakfast table going, who are you? Or what are you doing in my kitchen? We have no lost complete touch with each other. And this is really where, what a friend of mine, I did not coin this term, she called them the FU40s, where this happens to a lot of women, where they're first trying to be good daughters, and then they're trying to be good wives, and then they're trying to be good mothers. And somewhere along the way, they have forgotten who they are.
Yes.
And so they hit the 40s. The kids are grown up. It's like, damn it, it's now my time. And they throw this nuclear bomb into their lives. And my philosophy is you always should have started. But how does that get encouraged? And that's one of the biggest challenges.
I love this. So recently, line it's been this whole debate with Aisha Curry. She went on a podcast and she is, I think she's in her 40s or very close to. She's with basketball player Steve Curry. Curry has a palatial life, right? And she said that she never thought about having kids. She never thought about being a wife. She always thought she would be a career woman. Uh, she was not looking for any of this, right? However, she does say, to be fair, that she loves her husband, right? She loves her kids. With her saying something like this, do you think she's a woman on the edge of a divorce?
No,
Okay.
I don't. one because all marriages have challenges. The idea is for the challenges to be coming from outside the marriage, so we work as a team to address those challenges. If the challenges are within the relationship, then that's where probably it's a good idea to get some outside assistance. But this is a constant struggle. I think more for women than men, although I think men have it coming from the other side. Um, but this idea that it's either or, and I'm a big proponent. Always have both. You know, one of her comments really stuck with me because I remember when my daughter was in preschool, and I would go pick her up, and it's like, oh, it's Jenna's mom, and in my head I'm going, I have my own identity.
Mhm.
Yes, I was Jenna's mom, but I was also me, and that's the thing. That how do you hold on to who you are
Yes.
whilst part of something that I think is bigger
Okay.
than just you? So my view is the relationship has to be working for you, has to be working for your partner. And sometimes that means we're keeping the relationship as what's the word I'm looking for, as the goal, as the decide.
Mhm.
Is what I'm going to be doing promoting my relationship or glue? And there's always ways. I go back to Maria Shriver did a graduation speech. Was it Vassar many years ago? And this you can have it all. Her response was, you can have it all, just not all at the same time.
That's very true.
And that's and so you can continue to do these things. It's just being intentional.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, well, that's great advice so far. Okay, so this is Denise. Okay, Denise the Bear. She said, "Hey everyone, it's really difficult to hear her." All right, let me ask you a question. Can you all hear me? Y'all know we've been working on this whole audio thing. Is it too low or what? If so, I will turn it up. Thank you. Let me know what's going on. Hello, Miss Nikki. Listen, we are trying to make sure we get this sound together here. So please let me know if you all can hear me. Okay, you all. Y'all know we have been trying to get this together. So just let me know. You can, so yes, you can hear me. Okay, no problem. So just maybe make sure you have the microphone closer. All right. So you said something powerful. Okay. Oh, what are some early warning signs for a man that his wife is thinking about getting a divorce?
Well, that can be a little challenging. One of the things that happens is it's kind of like with men. It's like, okay, I'm on to the next goal, right? I'm married, everything's fine. I'm now focusing on the next goal, and they kind of lose sight of the relationship. And it's very easy to do. You're trying to keep a roof over your head, pay the bills. You may have kids. You're doing this, you're doing this, and the marriage gets put on the back burner. So if you are not spending intentional quality time together as a couple, not as a family, but as just the two of you together on a regular basis, you are putting your relationship at risk.
All right.
So people talk about a date night.
Yeah.
And date nights, number one, you don't ever have to leave your home. You can have a date night in the house, so babysitters aren't necessary. And my definition of a date night is that the two of you are doing something together that is fun. You are not discussing finances. You're not talking about the kids. You're not talking about the relationship. You are having a good time. That is my definition of a date.
Okay. Very good. Very good. Let me ask you all now. Were you all able to hear that? Okay. Thank you. Let me know in the comments because this is getting really good. And I want you all to I want to make sure that everyone hears everything that we're talking about here. Let me know in the comments before we move forward. Okay? Because we're about to talk about sex. We're talk about sex, you all. So let's make sure let me know in the comments that you all can hear. All right, so you all heard her. All right, all right, all right. Very good, very good, very good. All right, so let's talk about sex. Because sex is one of the biggest unspoken topics behind divorce. How does intimacy or lack thereof impact a marriage?
Well, it's really important that you brought this up because this is another place where men get confused.
Okay.
Okay, there's two things. They think one, if they're having sex, everything's okay. No. And two, they confuse sex with intimacy. They're not the
Mm.
same thing. Sex is part of intimacy, but they are not the same thing. And and women are much more complicated when it comes to their sexuality than men. A lot of it has to do with with our hormones, where you are in your cycle. That's really what you enjoyed one time might be irritating you this time. So I mean, I realize sometimes men just get so confused because everything is changing. And but there's one thing that is critically important, and it goes back to the communication. We have to be communicating with our partners on a deeper level because the key to a good sex life in marriage is emotional safety. She has to feel emotionally safe. And this is a confusing thing for a lot of men because it's like they're good guys. They're not, they're not mean, they're not abusive, they're not brutes, they're not mean. They're good people, but they don't know how to help her feel emotionally safe. And that is about having these deeper conversations. Emotional safety leads to emotional intimacy, which leads to physical intimacy. The more safe and emotionally connected she feels, the better the sex life is going to be. It doesn't have anything to do with changing up positions or any of that.
Okay. So for the men out there, what is something that they can do to make their woman feel emotionally safe?
This is a big one. They have to be willing to listen to her. Now, this is one of the things that gets a lot of men in trouble, and mostly because women don't understand what they're doing. The whole fix it, right? I want to fix it. Part of one, men are action oriented, and two, they actually feel they have failed if their wife is upset. They have failed to protect her. Now, she might not even be upset with them, but if she is upset, he has failed. So his goal is, I need to make sure she's okay. The problem is they miss the listening part. They miss the
Give me an example.
listening to understand. So you've had a bad your kids have done something wrong, or you've had a hard conversation with your mother or something, and you're just really upset about it. Sometimes it would help for women to say to their guy, I just want you to listen. I want you to tell me that I am right. I don't want to be told. I don't want devil's advocate or suggestions about what I just want you to listen to me, right? Because I'm upset and I just want to get it out.
So when you say feeling emotionally safe, it's like when they try to fix the problem and you're already upset and they want to give you their 2 cents, which can like piss you off more. That doesn't make a woman feel emotionally safe, which leads to less sex.
Right.
Because, that is the biggest complaint that I hear from a lot of like married men is that the sex life is missing. It is. Is that the way a man, like, I guess, they always say, like, women, we fall in love by words. Men, it's like with the physicality and the looks and stuff. Is it that type of thing that matters? Because for a woman, when we stop having sex, like, we have disconnected long before that.
Well, yes. I mean, in reality, things are changing, but way, way, way too slowly. Um, Men have not been encouraged and um, validated for sharing their emotions. So, one of the ways that they are able to be emotionally connected to their wives is through the physical act. Um, Oxytocin, which is the bonding hormone, is released at orgasm and with hugs that last at least 10 seconds.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
So, this is one of the reasons why men feel very connected to their wives when they have sex, because oxytocin is much more available to women than it is to men, because they generally, you know, for lots of different reasons, but mostly physiological reasons. And so that is one of the things that they feel like, oh, I'm connected to her when we are physically intimate. And so they're when they talk to me, that's one of the two things that I get is we're not communicating well, or we stopped having sex, we're living like roommates. And they don't make the connection between those two things. They are highly connected. And so they keep thinking, well, if we spice up our sex life, or we change positions, or we do, it's like that's the wrong end of the stick. They're putting the cart before the horse. You've got to build. I like to talk about it like a cake. Sex is the icing, the emotional connection and the emotional safety is the batter. It's like you have to bake the cake first, and they're trying to ice something that hasn't even been baked yet.
Okay, absolutely, absolutely. Okay, very good, very good. Listen, are you all enjoying this conversation thus far? I think this is an amazing conversation. If you all have any questions, feel free to drop them in the chat, or you can come in studio with us. If you go to melissadhall.com/, get well with Mel. Also, here, I do want to go ahead and just take a moment to thank our sponsors today, JNCT Black Girl Boutique on Instagram. If you go to my profile, she gave me some lovely glasses, and I'm going to be wearing a lot more of her things today. So, listen, thank you all so much. All right. Yes, somebody said yes. Great conversation. All right, Miss Nikki, fantastic. So, question for you. Maisha, she says yes. Christopher, he says yes. There's a lot of people here agreeing with you. Let's see. All right, you all. So, one of your most popular YouTube videos, okay? One of your most popular YouTube videos is out there, right? And I think it is a great conversation. Says that women want to be ravished. Tell me, what do you mean by that? And why does that level of desire and connection matter so much?
Okay. So, this is a complicated one. And it's like, no, women do not want to be raped. Let me please put that out there. But being ravished means one of the barriers for women to getting in the mood to be intimate is we're in our heads. We're doing up our lists. What do I have to do? And so when we're ravished, it takes us out of our mind and into our bodies. And the idea is that our partners are confident in arousing us and making us feel good so that we can stop worrying about it, get out of our heads, and really feel what's going on. And there's it was interesting. I was talking to a friend of mine has written a book, and I was reading her manuscript, and she was talking about this idea of the guy was being nice and gentle, and and his wife said, no, I want you to just go for it.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, it, we have to be aware
Testosterone.
of how we're reacting to it. But it's this idea that he's confident and he's in his masculine energy. And this is the other thing. It's very difficult for women to go into their feminine energy if the guys aren't in their masculine. And that doesn't mean that they're going to be dragging us around, the room by our hair. It's not about them being aggressive. It's about them being assertive. It's about them being in charge.
No, I totally agree. A lot of women, right? We have the sentiment like when we're with our man, we don't want to think, right? We want him to take control. And I think that definitely spills over to the bedroom as well, where, listen, we ain't got to think about it. He knows what to do, he knows how to take control and make this situation happen. So I definitely can see that coming into play. And that just, makes us go crazy.
Well, yes, I mean, and and it's And it takes a certain kind of man to be able to do that. One who's very comfortable in his own skin and who feels like, you know, he's obviously attentive to her reactions. He's not just, I'm just going to go for it, but it's done with finesse.
Okay. So, all right, for the men out there listening, okay? And they're like, listen, things have been kind of dry lately. It's time to get back to it. I got this woman at home. She don't want me to touch her. I'm making her feel safe. What is the first thing they could do? Maybe. Or maybe they already doing it, right? Maybe they already doing it, want to take it up a notch. What is something that they could do to kind of get this engine back roaring?
Well, one of the things that they can do is to actually make sure that they are spending quality time together outside of the bedroom. Because and 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 here's the other thing, for many women, it takes us a while to warm up. This is another thing that the fantasy land, um, falling in love, where women are ripping their own clothes off and ripping his clothes off and all this other stuff because that's what we're supposed to be doing. And then the guys feel like, wait, bait and switch. Wait a minute, this isn't the way you used to be. That's why I'm saying it's not reality. And so the um, making time to do foreplay. And foreplay isn't just physical. Foreplay is having conversations. Foreplay is, holding hands. It's not just slam bam, thank you, ma'am.
Yes, I want to add because a woman getting turned on, it starts way before the bedroom. And I think like that's what men don't get. It starts way before the bedroom. It starts maybe with taking something off her plate, like the dishes being washed, or something that she doesn't have to think about during sex.
Well, and the other thing that's important is if you're waiting until 10 o'clock at night after you're both tired, to get her to where needs to be is going to take a while, and it's also going to take longer if she's tired. And so this is one of those things about, you know, uh, just not waiting till the end of the day.
Yes.
And because if she's not, if sex isn't necessarily unpleasant for her, but if it's not really pleasant and she doesn't have a great time, it's going to be like, do I really want to be spending my time doing this? Well,
At 11 o'clock at night.
right, absolutely. And so again, I go back to being intentional, not kind of just waiting. Oh, it's been 3 days. Wooga wooga, baby, want to get lucky? It's like no.
Okay, all right, very good. So that was great. So listen, y'all, we are having a wonderful conversation here. If you all have any questions, go ahead and drop them on the chat. Special hello to Deborah Shields. I see you, Deborah, Christopher, Nikki, and all the others out there. All right, so next question for you. Let's talk about other big pressure points. Leslie, money and kids. How do finances affect the health of a marriage, especially when one partner feels more burdened than the other?
So when you say burdened, what do you mean?
Meaning that you have one partner who might make significantly more, right? Or the other partner might have gotten laid off, or the other partner, yeah, might make significantly more, or might have got laid off, you know. Yeah.
Okay, so the reason why sex and money are the things that couples fight about the most is because they are the most personal. Money isn't just dollars and cents. It's what does it stand for? Is it status? Is it security? Is it love? Is it freedom? And so people have to get on the same page about what does money mean and how do we want to deal with it. A lot of couples now keep their money separate. There is not a state in the United States that keeps your money separate as far as the state is concerned. Your your assets are combined, right? If you get divorced, you're going to lose 50%. Doesn't matter which one of you, right? You're going to lose it. So there's this idea that we're safe if we keep it separate. That actually allows for a lot more conflict because then you're not having to have these conversations about what do we want to spend money on? What kind of lifestyle? And this goes to something that I talk about as a very fundamental foundational thing that most couples do not do. They do not have a plan for their marriage. They do not talk about how are we going to spend our money? What kind of house do we want to live in? How much time do we want to spend at our jobs? Do we want to have kids? If we have kids, how many? These very basic conversations that if you have a plan, if you understand, oh, this is our goal, this is what we want to do, here's how we're going to get there. Then if something happens, you already know where we're going to go, right? And so it actually eliminates the immediate conversations. I don't know if that answers your question.
Yeah, it does. It does. It does. All right. So, Miss Nikki, she said, good idea, marriage plan. Absolutely. And we're going to get to that. So, question for you. Do children ever become a dividing line in a marriage, or do they sometimes hold couples together when they shouldn't?
I'm going to answer the second part of that question first because children will take on responsibility for their parents. What your children want more than anything else is a solid, stable home, which means now they don't really care about what's going on between you and your partner as far as a couple go. They're interested in mom and dad and our safety. So sometimes when they feel like there's or when they recognize that there is problems, they will start to act up. They will misbehave. I long before I was a therapist, I knew this young woman who became anorexic because her parents were having difficulties, and as long as they were focused on her, they were together. So this is, and sometimes they'll act up in school or
So they could come together.
right. On the flip side, they become the perfect child because they don't want to be the source of any kind of stress in their parents' relationship. Um, and pretty much every child of divorce, I don't care how old they are, and it's very irrational, but we all think somehow we did something that caused the problem between our parents.
But is that ever true that the kids can cause a problem for the parents to get divorced? Maybe it might be an issue on, how to raise them or, uh, disciplining. I know like, usually fathers have a harder time or, or the kids can sometimes, manipulate parents. Like, really, I mean, can the kids, because be a cause of the divorce? Because,
Um, I don't think by themselves they are the cause of the divorce. What may be going on is that the parents have not had these conversations. And I'm not talking about arguments. I'm actually talking about going deep and, um, why do you want to raise why is this important in terms of raising the children? The other thing that has to happen is that parents need to be on the same page. If your kid can find a way, I mean, and they don't need much space. If there's like a just a little bitty space between the two of you, they will drive through it. They because they want what they want and they don't understand.
mm,
And so sometimes one parent is not comfortable you know, taking a stand with the kids, and that's an outside.
yes, yes.
That's a conversation that the two of you need to have outside of the presence of the kids, because to the kids you need to present a united.
Okay. All right. Very good. This is great. This is a really, really good conversation. All right. So let's go there. Infidelity.
Okay.
Infidelity. Let's talk about cheating. Cheating. Do you believe in the phrase once a cheater, always a cheater? Or can people really rebuild trust after infidelity and move forward?
This could be an interesting answer since I've already admitted that my father had more than one affair. Um, I do not believe that once a cheater, always a cheater. Most of the time, affairs are not about sex. They don't start out that way. They start out as something is missing in my life. It could be in my marriage, but sometimes it's just in my life specifically. And somebody comes along and you know, plays to that. And if the relationship isn't in a good place, you're at risk. Um, I worked with a client and he he had an affair. He loved his wife. He was really upset. He didn't understand what had happened, and she didn't want to know anything about his job. So his other half of the lot, half of his life, she didn't care about, and he started to get well known for things. And somebody came along and wanted to hear all about what he did and how fascinating. And
Wow.
it was just like giving a starving man a meal. And it didn't start out to be sexual at all. It was actually the emotional connection. And so a lot of what happens with affairs is old wounds are being triggered, or I have something's important to me that I didn't even know was important to me until somebody shows up and goes, "Sorry." you know. And so the key is to the person who goes outside of the marriage has to figure out what was going on and why they made that choice because it's a series of small choices. Dr. Phil, love him or hate him, used to say, don't you just hate it when you're walking down the street minding your own business and suddenly you find yourself in bed with somebody who's not your spouse? It's like, that doesn't happen that way,
Right.
right? And so there's lots of warning signs. And so you can rebuild the relationship. And what I also tell people is you are never responsible for your partner choosing to cheat. You do have ownership in what the relationship looks like because unless you are you know, good good relationships are not at risk to the outside.
I love this. I love this. Okay. This is great. This is great. So, for the men out there who have cheated, okay, because there's men out there who cheated, I'm sure you see that a lot. Um, how can they prove to their partner because that they're not going to do it again? What advice would you have for them to be able to rebuild that trust and to save their marriage? What do they need to do?
Well, the first thing they need to do is to take full responsibility. It cannot be, well, if we'd had more sex, it's like I said, she is not, or he, because women cheat too, is not responsible for you choosing to go outside the relationship. You need to figure out what was going on and why you made that choice. And that's really hard work. But if you cannot identify what was going on, then she cannot trust that if that situation pops up again, you're not going to do the same thing, right? I was listening to somebody. His answer was, "Well, I cheated because I'm a man," and she's like, "Well, you're going to be a man tomorrow and next week and next year, so." By the way, that's not the reason, because not all men do not cheat. And so the other thing is that he now has to be completely transparent. Whatever she asks him, he has to answer. There is no room. I'm a big believer in radical honesty anyway, but if you have cheated, you cannot even tell a little white lie. If she says, "Did you buy me that bracelet for Christmas and it's November?" The first question is, do you really want to know? And then if she says yes, it's like then you have to answer her honestly. You can no lies of omission. No, it's like you have to be so straightforward because if she catches you in a lie, it goes right back to where you are not trustworthy. You have to rebuild the trust. And the only way to do that is by action.
All right, that's very true. All right, what's up, Ivan Reynolds? How are you? How are you? Listen, you all, those who are just tuning in, we are talking about why do good men get divorced? And I am here with men's marriage coach and therapist. She's a licensed therapist, family therapist, Miss Leslie Dories, you all. We are having a fascinating conversation. We just spoke about, what men can do if they have cheated on their wives and they want to rebuild a relationship. You can catch it on the replay. If you would like to ask a question, whether it's in the comments or come in studio and ask Leslie a question, if you go to melissadhall.com /live, you are more than welcome to come on in and ask a question. So Iris says, I'm good. Please tell me because you're going through a separation. Iris, I am so sorry to hear that. I remember when you and your wife got married. If you want to elaborate, if you want to come in studio and ask Leslie a question, you can do that. And also, Leslie, you are having a workshop, is that right? A master class. Okay, go ahead and tell us about that.
Yeah, so I'm going to be doing a master class, 2 dates. One is October 30th, the other is November 1st, where I'm going to be talking about the title of it is Why Good Men End Up Divorced, because they're missing a couple of the signs of what they need to be paying attention to, things we've been talking about today. Better communication, having a marriage plan, and then actually how do you build real intimacy, real lasting intimacy. And it's really about learning what makes relationships work and then mastering the skills. And I know, I mean, I know it's really hard. People want to keep this to themselves. They figure, well, we'll figure it out. But if you don't have the information, then you're just going to be stuck spinning your wheels. And this is what I'm trying to provide guys with is here's what you need to be doing to move your marriage from just average, where it's at risk, to actually something that everybody wants to model, right? And it takes understanding what works and master.
Okay, thank you. So tell us, how can they sign up for your class, and is there a fee?
There is no fee, and they can sign up. I do have. I think you're going to be putting it in the comment section. There's going to be a link to it. They can also email me at coach at the Hero Husband Project, the Hero Husband Project, all one word.com, and I can get you guys. I can get you the link to sign up. But yes, it is free. I'm going to be doing it on a Thursday evening and a Saturday afternoon, so that hopefully people can come. But yes, there's no charge.
All right, good. I'm just typing that in. What is the have the link for the class? They just email.
They can email me. I sent. There's a Bitly link that I don't remember what it is.
Okay. Call them a coach at the Hero Husband Project.com. Just email her and she'll tell you there. All right, fantastic. So, um, let's go ahead here. So, okay. All right, you all. Listen, this has been wonderful conversation. Really. I truly appreciate you, Leslie. Thank you so much for your insight. Okay. What's one thing that you would like for every man watching tonight, if he wants to save his marriage? What is one thing that you would like for them to know tonight?
Learn the skills now. Don't wait, because that's what happens. Is they say, oh, it's not that bad, or I can fix this, or I don't have the time. And I'm really going to tell you that most relationships don't end with a big bang. It's not like infidelity. I mean, infidelity, like I said, you can come back from that. But most of it is the slow drip, drip, drip. And it happens so gradually that you don't necessarily even know that it's happening. And the earlier you learn these skills, and by the way, one person doing something different can and does change the relationship. So your wife doesn't have to participate in this, right? It's and the reason why I work with men is, one, I because I'm a woman, I can tell you what your wife is thinking, doing, what's happening on her side, and be able to guide you to make sure that you are on the right track and that you're not just wandering in the wilderness because you don't know what to do. And the best athletes of our time have more than one coach. They understand that if they want to be the best, they need somebody looking at them from the outside. And this is how we're successful. And with marriage, it's the only aspect of our life that we actually don't think, plan, and make decisions about. We kind of I have a mentor who calls it sliding, not deciding. We just kind of let things happen as opposed to being more intentional. How are we going to handle this? What's important to me? What's important to you? How do we get this on track and keep it on track?
I love this. And last thing, let's talk about before we go, maybe is somebody out there who is engaged or they're thinking about getting married. Yes, yes, yes. Right? What are some things that they could be doing in the dating stage to make sure that they don't get divorced?
Oh, I so love this question because people would ask me if I did premarital work. I said, yes, with anybody willing to do it. But most of them are caught in, like I said, in that fantasy land. And here's the thing. It's really about getting clear about who you are and what you want out of a relationship, what you're willing to put into it because you're half of it and you can only control your half of it. You can make requests of your partner, but if you're engaged, thinking about getting married, wanting to get married, learn the skills. Learn how especially learning communication. Learn how to communicate well because any two people are going to disagree, but fighting is a choice.
Let's talk about that. You say fighting, okay? Because I hear that, arguing in a relationship, that is normal, isn't it? Or not? Like, or is it to a degree? Or tell me about this, because you keep saying that fighting is not normal. And I mean, I'm not even talking fist fighting. I'm talking about arguments and stuff like that. Like, what is normal and what is not normal? How often? Like, no, seriously, I really want to know.
Okay. Um, I should say, I mean, arguing is very common and so therefore it is normal because it happens a lot. The problem is that it creates problems. Now, as I said, disagreement is a given. No two people are going to agree on everything. And that's not a problem. But how we talk about it, how we deal with it, and learning how to have those hard conversations without being angry, without saying things. Because if here's the problem with fighting and arguing somebody is angry. And when we're angry, literally our cognitive brain is no longer functioning and stuff comes out of our mouth that we cannot take back. No matter how much you apologize for it, the other person can never unhear it. So my thing is learn how to have you to work through these disagreements. And John Gottman, who's the great marriage research guru, God help us when he dies, has said two-thirds of all disagreements in a relationship can go unresolved, can and do go unresolved. The trick is figuring out the one-third that you actually have to agree to. Because a lot of times it can just be you do it your way, I do it mine, no harm, no foul, right? Not a big deal. And if somebody's getting upset about that, and oh, and by the way, nobody gets upset about surface level things. If somebody is upset, it's because a belief, a value, a moral, something has been violated.
Never what you think.
It's never the dish in the sink. It's what the dish in the sink stands for.
So would you say that too? Because when it comes to this communication and the woman initiated, can you say that men, they don't get that part, that it's never just the dish in the sink? Because a lot of times men that I have seen, like they don't know how to like men to me, okay, and I could have it wrong because I am single, okay, but the men to me seem very like surface level. Like you could ask them when they went to golf with their friends, how their friends' kids are doing and all that, and they'll say, "Oh, we didn't talk about that. We just golf." Like they just stick to the program. Do you think that that could be? Oh, we have a question. We have a question. Chris has a question. All right. Go ahead and connect your sound, Chris, and we're gonna go ahead and bring you up, okay, so we can hear you. Okay. All right. So answer that question while I can get this down.
Well, And again, I think most of us like to stay somewhat on the surface level because going into those deeper levels, that's where we're showing vulnerability. That's where we're giving people information about what truly matters to us. And if we don't trust them, they can use it against us. And this is one of the things where men have not been encouraged through the years to tap into those deeper feelings, um, to be able to fully experience all of their feelings. A lot of times, when you ask a man, well, what are you feeling? It's like, I don't know. They because they really have been shut off from that. From the time they're little kids. Big boys don't cry. Suck, be a man, suck it up. All this crap out there. So they're literally cut off and it's much safer for them to stay at that more surface level. But this is where it really causes a problem because they really think they're arguing about the dish in the sink. Now, I'm going to
Yes.
argue that women need to do a better job of being clear about what it is that's bothering them, not just, hey, you're leaving a dish in the sink. It's like, no, when a dish is left in the sink, I feel like I'm being taken advantage of. And so it's that kind of level conversation that we need to have.
Very good, very good. So, Chris, he has a question. He's having an issue with his microphone. He asks, "What do you do when there is a lack of growth in the relationship?" Okay.
And that's an interesting question. And I'm not quite sure who's not growing. But for the most part, we human beings like to be comfortable. We're not particularly interested in changing things up. It's like, hey, I just everything's cool, right? Because change is difficult. And but marriage to me, there's a quote, I think by his name's John Barth, who says, marriage is our last best chance to grow up
Mhm.
because it really is about growing. It really is. I'm trying to make a life with this other person. How do we do this? And they have different experiences, they have different wants. How do we make this go together? And so that is about growing. And that is one of the challenges that if we stop doing things together as a couple, it makes it easier for one person to stop growing.
Right. I love that. So he should do more stuff as a couple with her or try to? Okay. I love that. What if like the woman, she's like resisting, right? She's resisting. She doesn't want to do it. She's not into it. Is it how could matter of fact, what should he say to his friend? No, seriously.
Okay.
Okay, if 70% of these divorces are being filed by the woman, right? What could he say to communicate with her that is a lack he feels a lack of growth in a way that she would receive it?
Well, this is the approach that I recommend using for any topic that you want to address with your partner. Two of my favorite words: confusion and curiosity.
Mhm.
I'm curious. Can I get an example? Or I'm curious. Um, you know, I see this happening and not that. Or I'm confused. I was with the conversation until here and then I got lost. Can we go back? Um, One of the things that I tell my clients, and it's the one thing that I have been told is the most difficult thing I suggest, is do not use the word you unless it's I love you, you're wonderful, I'm glad you're in my life. Then please use the word you to your heart's content. But you did this or you're doing this or why did you, and never use why and you in the same sentence. Oh my God.
Why and
Why and you? Why did you? Because that sets up a defensive response.
okay.
So what we want to do, what I recommend to Chris, is if there's a resistance to doing something, it's like, okay, so I'm curious, is there anything that would be of interest for us to do together? And sometimes we want to do what our partner wants to do, not because we want to do it, but because they will do it with us.
Mm.
And so it doesn't always have to be something we want to do. Sometimes it's just, okay, let me do this with her and get the connection.
Very good. That was some great advice. That was some great advice. Chris, I hope she gave you some good things, some good tips. So we're about to head off here. If you anybody else wants to come up right quick, if not, okay, we're gonna go ahead and end it. Okay. So yeah, that was a good question though. That really was because people change in relationships. People change. They always, say like the person who you marry today, they always say, listen, the person you marry isn't the person you divorce, right? And so, but also too, people change. People do grow. And especially if you get married young, I could see a person changing. And just even, you marrying somebody today and then they change tomorrow. I could see that being something too. Nowadays, people have a lot more options and a lot more exposure where, it leads to, I guess, bigger ideas and faster evolution. Go ahead.
Well, yes. I mean, and that's the benefit of being curious, right? It's because don't assume that you know what your partner is thinking or believing. Just because they believed it or did it 3 years ago doesn't mean that they haven't changed their minds. And so, staying curious, staying connected, talking to each other on a regular basis, not just about logistics, but how are you doing with this, or you know do you want to do something else? And why do you want to go to Rome? I mean, it might be. It's and then learning how to not get defensive about it, which is it isn't necessarily personal to you, but they could have had this experience, and do they feel like they can share it with you? And again, that goes back to that emotional safety.
All right. Very good. This was so, so good. All right, you all. So this has been amazing. Okay. Again, Miss Leslie here. She is hosting a free online webinar on why do good men get divorced. What are the dates for that? October 30th and November 1st. If you all would like to sign up, you could go to coach at the hero husband dot excuse me, coach at the hero husband project.com. So let's talk about next week, you all. So next week on Get Well with Mill, we're going to have Ask the Lawyer. Okay, and it's kind of a follow up to this with attorney Crystal Redding. She is family and business law. Okay, and so she's family and business law. We're going to talk prenups, custody, child support, business partnerships, and how to protect your peace and pockets. You all do not want to miss this episode. Make sure you follow me at melissadhall.com and subscribe at melissadhall.com/slash get well with Mel. If you would like to get my newsletter, I have a weekly newsletter that I'm sending out and also special behind the scenes access. Go to melissadhall.com/slash get well with Mel. They also get access to the replays as well because these replays, they disappear on social media now, especially Facebook and things like that. So it's free. I don't spam you. You also get reminders when we're going live and all the things, and it's fully free. Okay. So yeah, that's gonna be a good one. We're gonna talk child support, all types of stuff. Serious, and you gotta have the paperwork in order because, and I didn't know this whole child support thing is be a scam. It could be a scam, and also prenup. So anyway, you'll be able to ask her all the questions Thursdays at 5:30. All right, you all. So remember, okay, to stay well. All right. And getting well, what starts with getting honest. Okay. Have a good night, everyone. Thank you all.